All right, everybody, welcome back to Behind the Lens. Listen, I'm excited. We got Jermaine Hill, the busiest man. He's a man of many talents, a man of many hats, and I'm excited to have this conversation with him today. Um, just to learn, just to get some knowledge, and just to share with you all. So, how you
Sure.
doing, man?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being a part. Um, so you are an entrepreneur. You
Mhm.
own three businesses.
Mhm.
Um, EJH Consulting, Apparel, and Music. Um, can you tell us a little bit about that? How that came to be?
So, EJH Consulting was founded in 2011. It really came out of my freelancing doing web and graphic things. And so, um, still had a corporate job at the time, IT, information technology. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business. So, doing the corporate thing, but on the side, like many entrepreneurs, that how they start out, you have that corporate job and you still have your freelance. And so I was doing that, and it was getting pretty busy for me. I would leave my office, grab dinner, and then have to work another 5 hours on projects. And this was almost daily. So ended up a friend advised me to, for tax purposes, I should set up an LLC. So did that, and that's how it started, and end up most of my business comes from word of mouth. So when you are good at your craft and you study it and you try and perfect it and you keep up with the times, and you'll be successful. And so um I would hate for y'all to see some of my early work. But Facebook show up the memories when they come back. I quickly delete. I said, oh my God, if people saw this today, they would be like, oh my God, this is the person who does my flyers. So, and my logos and websites. But my early days, I was learning, but now, God has favored me to, to further my craft. So, yeah, so that's how EJ's Consulting started some time back. And then the other two were formed 2 years ago, 3 years ago in 2019, before the pandemic. They were just birthed out of what I was already doing. I was designing stores already for other clients, and being a graphic designer myself and building stores, I formed EJH Apparel so that I could offer clients the ability to order through me versus through another um, third party. So they could have their shirts and hoodies and things printed through me and designed through me. And then the music part, I already brand for several um notable figures, and I was doing that, and independent artists were asking me if I manage. I said no. And but it's still a passion of mine because I love the gospel industry, just the overall music industry. And just decided to form EJH Music as an artist management company, because I was already doing booking management for other artists. I was already familiar with the artist branding and just backstage logistics, just documentation, things like that. So it just made sense for me to do that. And so now I have three companies that I run full time now.
That's awesome, man. And I
Mhm.
actually, that's how I met Jermaine. We through my cousin. You managed him, Shaylin.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. Shayla
Uh,
Richardson.
it was the Shift Atlanta event.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was an incredible
Yeah.
event from beginning to end. It was a lot of work behind the scenes to get to that point. But he's an amazing artist. He's been interviewed multiple times and been made first round Grammys and things like that, has charted. So he's just an incredible songwriter and musician. Yeah.
Awesome. So on the music side, how is it managing an artist? Well, first, before I even get into that, how do you manage yourself?
Yeah, so it takes so in the corporate world, I'll say this. There are because you're in an enterprise environment, they use enterprise tools. Enterprise tools just meaning state of the art
Mhm.
tools. And so I picked up a lot on how to manage time and how to function in a demanding environment from that world. So it was an easy transition now that I'm full-time. I went full-time in December. And I have an office in DC now. And but it was a smooth transition. I have tools that like Google Suite that I use to manage a lot of my projects because you can manage them real time. It's easy to share with my team, things like that. I use which is I think is underrated. I use Siri a lot. I spoke to her several times this morning, said, "Hey Siri, can you remind me?" So by just saying that, a lot of times she'll just pop off. I hope she doesn't say anything, but
All right.
just saying that, she'll speak to me. But I use Siri, I use Google Suite, another tool called Slack to communicate with my team, other project management tools. So you have to, when you have three companies, a diverse set of customers and clients, things like that. So
Okay.
just have to use technology and go from there. I'm not at the place where I have a personal assistant yet. So maybe that will come. But right now, I'm able to manage with the tools I have and with technology. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, technology is amazing.
Mm.
So can you take me behind the lens of your life, behind the business, behind of all of that? Who is Jermaine?
Sure. Um, so as far as behind the scenes and things like that, my day to day is generally before I get out of bed. I've already responded to numerous texts and emails. I will say that I am a bed emailer and texter. Because if I wait to get up and then get to my office and whatnot, my work starts before I leave this house. So I have to do that. That's what a day-to-day looks like for me. And it's being efficient. When you're a full-time entrepreneur, every day is different. There's no such thing as a 9 to 5, a standard day. Some days, I may finish up work before midnight, and other days as well after midnight. Um, and sometimes my meetings are here at the house if I have obligations locally, and then other times they're at my office in DC. Just things like that. And then again, I have these tools that remind me on what I need to do, what my deadlines are. One of the reasons, I feel like that I have become successful in my areas is because my clients and customers can depend on me. um, I may not text you back right away. I may not be able to FaceTime you right away. I may not be able to pick up the phone right away, but I do get back to you. I do follow up. My artists know that I'm reachable at any time. They have a unique place within my world. When you're an artist manager, an opportunity could come up at any time, or your artist may run into different issues and may need your feedback. And so they have really full-time access to me. But the bulk of my time is EJH Consulting, and that comprises of logo design, websites, graphics of all types, social media management, things like that. So we really are a full scale design company, from end to end solutions. So I have a small team. I have 2 employees under EJ's Consulting. I want to shout out Shay and Sarah, 2 Black female techies that work with me, and they've been with me over a year. So long time. In my world, that's a long time. In the tech world, you can easily, because you're in demand, you can change jobs, but they've been with me for a while. On the music side, I have another part-time staff, Justin. He's my right hand at EJH Music. And just, you can't, one thing about being a full-time entrepreneur, some people might look at you like, oh, you do it all, but I don't. I need a team. I've grown to the size where I need that, so I can't say I'm doing this by myself. I have people that are helping me succeed. I have regular photographers on standby, videographers, people that I need to support what I'm doing. And so, yeah, so on a day to day, It's every day is different, but I spend a lot of time on my laptop, a lot of time on my phone. But I'm very hands-on. 100%, I can't say it's 100% of the graphics are still done by me. So you can still rely that Jermaine is touching your work and whatnot. And so the web, I still build websites and things like that, but what I'll do is I end up delegating some of the work. But 100% of the graphics still done by me. So that's what takes up a lot of my time.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So what has that process been like as far as building a solid team? Because I know some
um
companies that's hard to do.
yeah, well, like I said, all of the staff that works with me now have been with me over a year. I would have to go back and look and see how long. It may be close to 2 years now. But they have been with me from, for a while. And so they've been loyal, humble, subject. And the thing about, I will say this, before having my current team in place, I work with other part-time staff or interns, volunteers, may not have worked out for one reason or another. But when you find a solid team, you hold on to them and you value them. And these people, the three that work for me now, they are paid staff. They're not, interns. They are paid staff that get paid every month to do the work that they do. And so, love sharing those benefits, and it works out for them as well, because each of them have their own kind of freelancing that they do. But they understand that they are employees of EJH Consulting and EJH Music. And so, we are a professional firm and we work together. There's no attitudes, there's no disagreements. And that's one of when you're looking to hire staff, you got to interview them. All of these people, I didn't just take on. I spoke to them, I vetted them. We went through multiple sessions of just having conversations and understanding my role, their role. We've become friends now, and we still are friends, but at the same time, they know when I put the boss hat on, it's on.
Right.
And if my clients yell at me, I'm gonna yell at you. So, and all of them know where I stand with that or whatnot, but they receive constructive criticism, and I learn from them too. I'll say it like that, from Shay and Sarah, Justin, I learn from them. And so they'll give, and they know I'm open to suggestions. You can't rule with an iron fist and be successful. You have to be open to feedback. And sometimes they'll say, well, have you thought about doing this, or should we do it that way? And they won't do it in a way what they're telling me what to do. They'll do it as a suggestion. Because they understand, that I will make the final decision, but I respect their opinion, and I learn from them too. So it's been incredible. It's been incredible to have the support of people, and it's weird when they call me, hey boss, things like that. I don't make them do that. That's something that they do. And sometimes they just say, hey bro, whatever. And that's not even diminishing to me. I respect that because we are a team. We work together. And so I learned to do that in the corporate world. Before I left, I was senior. I had people under me and whatnot. And so I know how to run a team and be respectful of the people that you're with, because they could leave and go somewhere else. That's one thing that I do recognize, that in my world, anything involving digital, anything involving tech, especially post-pandemic, during pandemic, you can easily lose them. The job market is booming right now. And for them to stay with me so long and want to work with me and be a part of the dream and what I'm doing is incredible. So I'm
That's a huge
grateful.
blessing. That's a huge blessing.
Mhm.
So I was doing a little digging and I saw a few months ago you were featured by Hustle Weekly magazine.
Mhm.
And just reading your story and everything, you didn't really have an entrepreneur background, as far as like people in your family or anything like that you can look up to. How has
Mhm.
that been
Yeah.
a motivating force?
Yeah, that's true. That's something that I put out there because, sometimes people will say, oh, well, we know why you where you are is because you had a mom and dad at home. My parents have been married almost 50 years now, and you come from a middle class household and things like that. And I do. However, there were no full-time entrepreneurs in my family. You had people that kind of sell things on the side while they're still working. But when I say full-time entrepreneur, you don't have a corporate job. You don't have, every 2 weeks you get that direct deposit. This is as you work, you get paid. And so it just wasn't there. And then, African American families, you may have someone that it's just not you have ones that have their own businesses, but generally it's hard to find full-time entrepreneurs in the African American space that are doing it legitimately and can mentor you. And then when I say legitimately, I mean, LLC or sole proprietorship, filing your taxes every year, using state-of-the-art forms and tools to run your businesses, sending out invoices, have your own health insurance, things like that. So it just wasn't there. I couldn't look to anyone. So when I did it, it was because I saw other entrepreneurs doing it, and some of it is self-taught. I end up learning how to I hired a tax consultant to know how to file that Schedule C that I need to do every year. I have to file it for each of my 3 companies, and um in private health insurance. When you're a full-time entrepreneur, I went from company sponsored to my own. I had to shop for health insurance and things like that. So it's a lot that comes with it. And again, I just didn't have anyone sitting down, so I took the responsibility of finding mentors. And before I started my full-time job, full-time entrepreneurship, it was one of the persons that go to my church, her name is Desi Dampier, and she had a year before me had stepped out on her own as a full-time makeup artist, and she was working in the corporate world. She, got her own space and things like that. And so I said, well, she can do it, I can. And I reached out to her about health insurance and asked her, well, how did you shop for yours? Because she's in Maryland and things like that. You can't be hesitant about reaching out for help if you know you need it and you want a mentor. And she happily told me what to do and things like that. And I ended up finding a provider. And then as far as my office space, before I left the corporate world, we had partners who were in co-shared office spaces that I visited. I visited one when I was in New York on work, and there was a company called WeWork. I'm not sure if you heard of it. WeWork is a co-office sharing space. Many companies in one place to share conference rooms and things like that. And so when I went there and saw that this company that had partnered with our company, which is a major enterprise company, and they didn't have a big building, they had office space within a co-sharing. I was like, wow, this is something I could do. I could have my own office space, and then I could still work for larger corporate entities, and they can come here for meetings and things like that. That's when I started looking into it, and I found a company called Industrious, and I toured their office spaces in DC. There's like 5 or 6 of them in the area, and I found one that I loved, and signed a lease last December, so I've been there almost a year now, and just an amazing transition, because my clients can meet me in a office environment, in a safe space, in a upscale trendy space. We have rooftop area. We have many various conference rooms, open spaces for just creative meetings, things like that. You can really create in that space. And so it just took me deciding that this is what I want to do and moving forward and doing it, and then now being a full-time entrepreneur in my own family, others are looking up to me. They say, okay, we finally got one. So now if this is something that I want to do, I can reach out to Jermaine because he's already doing it. I can ask him about how do I file my taxes? How do I register my company? How do I find office space? How do I hire staff? I can answer all those questions now.
That's amazing. And I wanted to ask, as you was talking, did you ever think about, giving back as far as being a mentor to somebody else, other entrepreneurs trying to get to where you are getting, where you're at and where you're
Yeah.
going,
Yeah, and I do it pretty regularly now. I do have, they reach out, different mentors across the country, in one way or another. Different ones they've asked me how did you start building websites? I want to learn. I've sent them links. Um, some I've met with in person. I do get a lot of requests for training for graphics and things like that. I just don't have that bandwidth right now. And so the ones that do, I'll point them to some of the designers that are doing it. They have creative conferences and Photoshop sessions and things like that. They're at the place that's what they do. And some of them have been full-time longer than me. I just became full-time in December. That's the thing. A lot of people, when I was in the corporate world and running my companies, people thought I was doing it full time. I was just good at shielding that, doing my, 9 to 5, and then also and I think that was a good thing, because if you can't tell that I have a corporate and my full, that means I'm doing something right. Like I'm working efficiently enough where you can't tell, like, oh, I just got off my corporate and now I'm starting my other stuff. That I did it in a way where people thought I was running full time. And then once I announced it on January 1st of this year, I took a picture at my office space and said, well, I'm full time now. A lot of people was like, oh, well, we thought you already were. So, I said, well, no, I made the transition. And so,
that's a
yeah,
dope space, by
that's,
the way.
huh?
Just seeing the pictures, that's a dope space.
Yeah, it is. And this week is DC Startup Week. And so yesterday they had a huge event at our office space,
Okay.
DC Startup Week. And it was just incredible to be there, just to see, I'm in a building, an environment that is valued by the startup community here. And the thing about my office space is that it's 24 hours. I have 24 hours. Sometimes I'm in there at 3 o'clock in the morning working. It's a entrepreneurial space for people that that work outside of standard hours. So and we can use the space, for whatever. I can have events on the rooftop. I can have seminars in our large classrooms. There's small conference rooms where I can have design meetings and things like that, even host a podcast or anything. So I've had other friends come in to use the space because they've seen what we have there, and they say, oh, can I have a meeting there or do a photo shoot there or whatever? And I let them use the space. So we work together, and just Northeast DC is a creative district anyway. It's a lot of gentrification there. While you have like Whole Foods next door and yoga across the street, Starbucks is across the street, of course, one of my favorite places. Everybody know that. So, it's there. And then on the other side, you have a lower income segment as well, like just across the street. But it's a creative district. It's evolving, it's growing. And so I love going to DC every day. It's great.
Okay. That's about a 30-minute drive.
Driving, no, to be from my house, I'm in the Beltsville area. So from my house, it's about, on with no traffic, it's 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Like if I'm leaving my office at 1 in the morning and coming here, it's literally a 20-minute drive. But it can be 30 minutes to get there. The good thing about DC, it's a big metro system. So I live right by the train station. So technically I don't have to drive. But when it comes to my late night office hours, the metro closes at midnight. So, there are times that if I know I'm going to leave before then I'll take the metro. But most of the times I drive.
Okay. So to live the life that you're living, just constantly busy managing so many artists and just companies, there's a certain type of mindset that you would have to have in order to just like maintain all of that and not go crazy.
Hmm.
Can you just kind of speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, it is. It's because it's being a full-time entrepreneur is a super stressful job. It's not for the weary. And I tell anybody that, and some people they recognize it's just not for them. They'll tell me themselves, you can have that. I can't do it. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna get my paycheck and come home. And I did that for years, but when it's in you, it's in you. I don't think it's being a full-time entrepreneur is something that is a passion. It's just something you can't get away from. And so, if you look at any successful ones, I mean, of course, we know the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world and Jeff Bezos owns Amazon, things like that. Um, but all of us have a different story and path how we got there and then how we maintain there. For me, again, even though people say I'm a workaholic and I work all the time, that's just the nature of what I do. But I do find time to get away. You have to balance it out. So many times in the DC area where I work at, with my office is, it's a great walking area. And so many times I'll take a break when I've been in a mode for a couple of hours. I just take a break, go for a walk. Um, Talk to people on the phone. Holidays, I do try and get away during holidays, because any other time I'm working and meeting my client demands, making sure my artists are okay, things like that. So I do things to make sure that it's a balanced life. I get massages every now and then at Massage Envy. Go to the spa, get my hands and feet done, things like that. So I step away from the work environment, but my phone is always in my right hand. So it's like, it's right here now. Because just the nature of my business, that's what you have to do. But I do take breaks. I feel like I do need to join like a yoga class or some type of meditation, something to to come back down after being in the office so long and things like that. But I do try to do that. I go to Starbucks, take a break, get that sip of coffee or that macchiato, that frap or whatever.
Well, Fred, extra drink.
Exactly. You know what it is. So it's like that's like you take that moment to do that. And when I will say this, whenever I go to the doctor to get my checkups and things like that. I've never had high blood pressure problems, high cholesterol, things like that. Where I'm super stressed out. Believe it or not, people, it might look like I have a high stress job, but I do try to eat right. I try to keep a good mental health balance. I don't think I've ever had a mental breakdown or thing like that. I just when I need to walk away, I walk away. I take a break and then I come back. But I understand the demands of what I do. So I try not to keep my clients waiting too long. But there are times where, I will have to take a break and I'll say this too. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for this, but every client that you have, every artist that you represent is not necessarily meant to be forever. Say it like that. I do have clients that have been with me from the beginning. I have clients that I started working with in 2012, many years ago, and they're still with me, and so there are to keep a good mental balance. There are times I've had to end a business relationship. I've had to end relationships with artists, that I've managed, things like that, to keep a good mental health balance so that if it's become either a unhealthy relationship or it's we're clashing, and it's not a good healthy balance, then sometimes it's but okay, we had our season and it's time to move on, things like that. So you have to make those decisions as the boss. You have to decide what's best for your companies and what's best for you as the leader. So
And I love that you touched on mental health because that is very important.
mm-hmm.
Um, Especially as a Black man, that's something, at least I can speak for me, that's something I've never heard growing up, mental
Mm-hmm.
health.
Yeah.
So
Me
Now
either.
in this in these late 20s of my life, I'm tapping into that more, learning myself, learning my triggers and just all of these different things so I can manage well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I know faith. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I agree. It's very important. You have to pay attention to, you have to nurse it,
Yeah.
and keep it at the forefront because believe it or not, how you think affects your physical. You know what I mean? It's all tied together,
Mm,
and I'll say this for me, my body, there is something that happens physically that I know when I'm stressed out and it's happened over the years, and I don't pass out or anything like that, but I can share what that is. It's and then maybe this happens to other because when it started first happening, I looked it up. I was like making sure I didn't have a brain tumor or anything. So what happens is when I get super, super stressed, and people can't tell, but I could tell if you look really hard, you can. My left eye starts twitching. And
mm,
when I say twitching, like the eyelid itself, it'll like rapidly twitch. And that only happens when I'm under a lot of stress. And I know that I'm under stress for a deadline, a meeting or whatever. Maybe I clashed with a client or something like that. When I'm under a lot of stress, it starts twitching. And I had to look it up when it first started happening years ago. And then it says it's either something, a nerve issue or stress. And I didn't went to the doctor, I didn't have a nerve issue. So it was stress. And what happens is when I walk away, take a break, calm down, let my serotonin levels or whatever come back down, it stops. It goes away. So that's my trigger. I'll know if my left eye, and I would say probably about a month ago it started again. So that's how I knew. I was like, okay, Jermaine, all right, time to. So your body. You have to listen to your body. Listen to your body. Listen to your body.
Now we're coming down to an end, but I wanted to touch on this because I know that faith is important to you,
Mhm.
and I know even for me as well, I know that is like the leading light to you and how you run your business and your life.
Yeah.
Can you just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. So I was born and raised in the church. My dad is a minister. I'm a PK, believe it or not. And so, but at that time, I didn't know what PK was. I just knew my dad was, a preacher. And at the time, he was the assistant pastor of our church and things like that. And so, we just looked at ourselves as just regular kids, but as growing up, then I learned the term PK, and then all the assumptions that come along with that. People
Right.
think that we just we're sheltered, and then we're wild
Oh,
children once we
wow.
go to college. It was a little bit of that, but not too much. I went to college at the University of Richmond. Go Spiders. Yeah, so I went to University of Richmond in Richmond, Virginia, and it was a great time. And just and as far as spirituality, now I'm a member of Carter Memorial Church of God in Christ, a great, great ministry. Bishop Carl A. Pierce is the pastor. I need that just as much as I work, I go to church just as much. Believe it or not, I'm always there. And so I find time, I make time to go. And so my spiritual life is super important to me and has contributed to a lot of my success. So yeah, when you see me, you'll see, yeah, I'm a shout and dancing tech business owner. You
That's
know, we
it.
have a judge at our church that she's a whole judge in Baltimore and run around and dance. I mean, you can't let your career dictate, your praise. So you just gonna have to deal with a shout and dancing graphic designer.
That's it. Because
So,
who get those talents?
yeah. So, but yeah.
That's good stuff, man. So we are down to the wire. Can you just briefly tell us how we can come in contact with you, follow you?
So my handle is I am J Hill on a lot of things. So that's how you can find me. Like on Instagram, Facebook, it's just type in Jermaine Hill. But everything else is I am J Hill, my TikTok, my Twitter, things like that. So my website, EJH-consulting.com. That's where all things EJH is. I have an apparel site, EJHapparel.com. You can find my designs and clothing there. More to come. I'm working on some 2023 stuff there and partnering. and my music, EJH Music .biz. That's my music site. So yeah, go follow me. I'll follow you back. And I'm always on social media, you know, believe it or not. When I'm moving around, I'm just on there. So I'll definitely follow you back. Let's connect.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate you popping on and just
Thank
taking this
you.
time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.